a very warm welcome to this programme, The North Face of Kindness, Friendship, Warmth and Care, which is one of a series of events celebrating 50 years' work of the Brahma Kumaris in the UK. And this programme is the contribution from the north of England, and I'm joining you from the Yorkshire Dales. Now, our activity here in the north began in a very small way in 1976, when my wife Maureen and I attended a Brahma Kumaris event during the Edinburgh Festival. And everything that we experienced and heard made a lot of sense to us both. So shortly after coming home, we started some Brahma Kumaris activities in and around Leeds for the public. And over the years, the interest in the Raj Yoga meditation that we teach has increased a lot, and so the presence of the Brahma Kumaris across the north has really grown quite organically. Now, when we were thinking about a theme for our programme, we asked ourselves, now, what would be the standout quality of folks who come from up north? And one thing that most people do comment on is the warmth and friendliness that is very apparent, and these qualities do create a very special, caring attitude. It's a welcome everywhere, always hoping that any visitor is very comfortable and ensuring that there's always time to put the kettle on and have a nice chat over a cup of tea, which of course in our case would be a cup of kindness. Now, clearly kindness isn't unique to the north. It's a universal and a very highly prized quality, but the north does seem to have its own take on kindness, which we will explore. And over the years we have made many friends, and so we're going to start off in Manchester with two good friends of the Brahma Kumaris Manchester in a space, and this is Sir Peter Fahy and Elaine Griffiths. Sir Peter served as a police officer for 34 years, rising through the ranks to serve as 8 years as Chief Constable of Cheshire and 5 years as the Chief Constable of Greater Manchester. Now retired, he is fully occupied with his work supporting people through various charities. He is the founder and the co-chair of We Stand Together, which became a charity in May 2018 in response to the Manchester Arena attack. Elaine Griffiths is the co-founder and the chief executive of the Monastery of St. Francis and Gorton Trust, and the trust has been lovingly restored. It's a world-class heritage building and motivated by values of non-judgment, compassion for all life, charity, and sanctuary for those in need. It's really become a centre to support the people of Manchester and communicate messages of hope and peace to the wider community. Sir Peter and Elaine will share some ideas and experiences around our theme. There'll be some music and poetry, and also some short contributions from friends of the other friends of the Brahma Kumaris. And at the end, we'll also have a chance to experience some moments of reflection and meditation.
I think as a police officer you see many individual acts of kindness. The fact is that police officers are often with people at the very worst moments in their lives, but they are also exposed to really the full range of social challenges and difficulties that people face in their lives. But I think also, fundamentally, when you look at why some areas are safer, why people feel better living in those areas, it is because of almost an accumulation of individual acts of kindness, that there are people there that know their neighbours, that reach out, that talk to them, that are willing to help if somebody's in a difficult way. And in a lot of communities I found there are particular people who make a particular effort, and if the police have got a problem, it might be with some local youths that are causing a nuisance, that person would make a real effort to bring other people together, to perhaps start a sports club, a football club, get some funding from business. So it is really, you know, that accumulation of individual acts that people are bothered, and that often people will look behind a problem and say, well, you know, what is the humanity behind this? You know, I remember being at a community meeting once, it was actually in Cheshire, where people were actually complaining about young people gathering outside the library late at night. And it was all becoming a little bit hostile towards these young people. And then somebody at the back of the room put their hands up and said, hang on a minute, we were young once. You know, we sometimes hung around on street corners. And it was strange how it changed the whole tenor of the conversation. And people started discussing then about how they possibly could then organise a youth club and some other activities to keep the young people actually occupied. And as I say, they saw the humanity behind the problem. And I thought that was a fundamental act of kindness.
Yes, I mean, I think I've really got to go back to the very, very early days of when the monastery project started, because it's located in a very challenging area in Manchester, and people really were, in some cases, frightened to go out of their front doors. And we felt very much that the monastery had to come back and try and provide the role that it used to when it was a Franciscan church and friary, where the brothers who used to walk the streets of Gorton would look out for everybody. They knew everybody, you know, the neighbourhood was one of huge friendliness. In the St. Francis prayer, it says, "It is in giving that we receive." I have to say, one of the great examples really was to try and see the best in people. I had a wonderful lady working with me, volunteering in the early days, called Ilma, and she was an artist, but she was also passionate about gardening. And one of the first things she wanted to do with our community house was sort out the garden so that we could grow some vegetables and make it a pleasant place for people to sit outside when they came to see us in the summer. So she brought all her tools from home, started doing the gardening, and then suddenly one day she realised all the tools had been stolen. Now, many people would probably react in a certain way. Ilma, no, she went round all the neighbourhood to find out possibly if these children had taken them, where they were, and sure enough she found the tools all lined up in a row, and she invited the parents to allow us to have the children to come and work with us and do gardening. And the proudest moment for Ilma and for myself was the day when the children took the green beans home from the garden and actually, you know, used them for tea at home.
I have been practicing Raja Yoga meditation for many years with my husband Clyde, and for me there have been very many positive experiences, but I'll just share a couple. One is that it has created balance in my life. Prior to meditation, I was perhaps living more on the external, on a materialistic level, and Raja Yoga meditation taught me to who I truly am, which is a spiritual being using this physical body. And from that, the understanding and the experience of the qualities that lie within myself. And so I practice this on a daily basis, coming back to the awareness of myself. But the other thing that is also important to me is that the realization that whatever happens doesn't happen to me, but for me, in order that I can become the best that I can be.
So prior to embarking on the journey of Raja Yoga meditation, we both experimented with other forms of meditation, but found that we needed something more. And Raja Yoga has been able to do that. Not only has it allowed us to reconnect with the self, but it's allowed us to demonstrate and bring out the best that's within us. As a result of that, I found that my relationships with others, particularly family, have improved greatly. And personally, I found that I've been more bold and courageous in doing things I had never dreamt of doing before. For example, I've been able to speak before large audiences. Okay, there might have been some initial nervousness, but generally I've been able to do that, and I couldn't do that before. life has been very much improved. I've been able to meet the twists and turns of life with a greater equanimity. So it continues to be a journey, but it's one that we've both committed to for a lifelong time.
This is Jan from Sheffield. Congratulations from the whole of Sheffield to you as you celebrate 50 years of pure spiritual service. Thank you for sharing over the last 50 years so dynamically and so lovingly the knowledge and the benefits of Raj Yoga meditation and positive thinking, so we can all respond to the call of our deep heart to lead a simple life based on spiritual values. Truly a gift that just keeps on giving, the diamond in our pockets. The practice of meditation and positive thinking is a wonderful way to truly open to our God self and learn to trust the love that we truly are at the core of our being. On a more personal level, taking the benefits of daily meditation and having the good fortune of also having ongoing association and the company of so many wise, courageous and loving companions along the path has and continues to be a deeply affirming spiritual practice for me, supporting me as I continue my quest to learn how best to be with others in need, but more importantly, grounding me in an authentic spiritual life of ministry and service. And for that, I am truly grateful. Thank you.
I'm not sure that there is more unkindness. I think it's where you actually look and the lens that you use. I think what we are seeing is that we've got the impact of social media, the impact of things like 24-hour news and phone-in radio stations, where essentially they have to cover issues of concern and things that people get angry about, and that can hide, I think, what's actually happening at the local level. And particularly the pandemic was clearly an extremely difficult time for the country, as it continues to be. But below that, particularly during the lockdown period, certainly in my own community, I saw the most amazing acts of kindness, people getting really motivated, helping one another, incredible acts of volunteering, people wanting to make a real difference, and also just the inner strength and reward that they got from that. And I would be really clear myself, I did quite a lot of volunteering, and really kept me sane, because it is the return that you get, exactly as Elaine was saying about the prayer of St. Francis. So often you find that people are going through difficult times, if they have that chance to do an act of kindness to somebody else and to recognise their humanity and feel better about the world, that actually lifts them, and actually absolutely gives them inner peace, and absolutely helps their own mental health. So I remember once being on a committee that was giving out grants to various charitable projects, and one came in which was about a particular church community project in Bolton, and this woman came in to speak about the project, and she said, throughout all my life, everybody has told me I was useless. My parents told me I was useless. My teachers at school told me I was useless. And the guy that I ended up living with, who beat me up every day, he kept on telling me I was useless. And then I got involved in this church project, and they had faith in me and allowed me to actually run the kitchen, where I was able to give out food to people who are struggling every day. And she said, now that's completely transformed my life. And I can get up every single morning and feel I have a purpose in life.
We were talking earlier about whether we feel the world is an unkinder place these days than it used to be. And I don't think that is the case. I think it's, as you say, it's how we view the world. And I think because we've gone through such a challenging last sort of 18 months with all of the COVID lockdowns, in many, many ways that's given people the opportunity to think about what matters to them in life. And I think everybody has suddenly realised that respecting one another and actually caring for one another and being close to your family and your friends and your neighbours is actually the most valuable thing. The rest is almost like a sideshow.
Hello, my name's Janvi and I'm in my second year of college. My parents started attending and practicing Raj Yoga when I was about 5. So what I found is that as a child I didn't quite understand what was going on. I didn't understand meditation at all. But the more I attended with my family, the more sense it made to me, and I'm beginning to see the benefit of meditation on my life, especially during exam season. Schools teaches you all the content that you could possibly need for an exam, and it teaches you how to answer the questions, but what they don't teach you is how to prepare for exam stress and how to stay calm and how to deal with all that external pressure. Meditation has helped me. What I do is during pretty much every exam that I've sat, there's been moments where I feel panicked. And during those moments where I feel panicked, I pause for a moment just to meditate for about a minute and clear my mind, detach and refresh. Every time I spend a minute meditating, it saves me about 10 minutes of panic and possibly messing up my exam. And what school hasn't provided me with in terms of that preparation for stress, Raj Yoga has. And as a result of regular practice of meditation, it's made a huge positive impact on my life, especially my relationships with my friends and my family. What it's done, it's prepared me for all these challenges in my life, and if I hadn't, I wouldn't be able to face them with the positive mindset that I have today.
Hi, my name is Jackie Chambers and I'm a musician. I play guitar with Girls' School and Cyteria, and they are both rock bands, so as you can imagine there's not an awful lot of peace and quiet in my job at all. But meditation is the one thing in my day that is the most important thing in my day. Everybody will tell you who meditates, you get peace, you get quiet, you get calm, you get concentration, clarity. There's so many positives in there. I don't think I can find one negative thing about meditation. I know in my job, if I'm on tour in a van, it's just absolute madness all around me. There's parties, there's people singing, there's people drinking. It's going mad around me. If I just put on my headphones just for a minute, even if I'm not listening to anything, just to block out the noise and just have a minute to myself, that really helps me just get back to it and calm again. Then if I'm writing in the studio, I could reach writer's block and I have no idea where I'm going next with this song, but I just stop, take a few minutes out, just walk into another room, come back, and it's like you've started again. It's like you're in your own little bubble. You've just come back to peace, the start button, and it's amazing how much it can work for you every single time. I don't know what I'd do without meditation, I really don't, so I'm so glad that I started to do this, and I will continue to do this for the rest of my life.
In 2012, Greater Manchester was affected by the impact of terrorist attacks in other countries, particularly attacks in France, directed particularly at the Jewish community there. And that caused a lot of concern amongst our communities here. And so I created a charity called We Stand Together, because I've actually again found that what the Jewish community were concerned about and what the Muslim community were concerned about in terms of a backlash were often the same things, and they had a huge amount in common. And through that journey of We Stand Together, what I absolutely realised is that the only way you change attitudes is by sitting next to another human being and understanding their experience, and sometimes having difficult conversations about things that may divide you, differences, ideas that you have, possible prejudices that you have. And for me it was about, you have to be proactive. You can't be passively anti-racist. You have to make that effort yourself to understand another person and to explore what might be your own questions, your own prejudices, and be willing to challenge them. But going to meet that other person by possibly knocking on the door of that neighbour that you've never spoken to, making an effort to go to another place of worship, but as I say, not in a spirit of almost skating over what might be difficult issues, but being prepared as human beings to discuss that. And so often by listening to one another, again in a fundamental act of kindness, we often absolutely see the humanity, the shared humanity that we have, rather than those issues of doctrine or whatever it might be that apparently divide us.
What is our purpose? Our purpose is almost to create a modern day monastery here in Manchester so that we can be almost the hub for people to be able to come and share and resolve conflict and understand one another and create this beautiful space for celebrating all kinds of things, the rites of passage we all share. Let's come together and celebrate them. So we've kind of redefined ourselves recently, and obviously we are all about heritage and culture. We've got an incredibly beautiful building, but it's all about making people feel better in the community as a result of having access to that space. So it's all of the health and wellbeing programs we can run together. It's also about ceremony and celebration, and that brings everybody together under one roof to realise that there's not such a huge difference between us all. It's only the way that we happen to have been brought up and the things that we were fed. And then the kind of final thing for us is also we want to learn, we want people to understand more about one another. So we've created we talk about it as a wisdom library, but it's all about wisdom and consciousness, and let's share these rich experiences that exist in every faith and culture, and let's see how we can all be inspired by one another rather than have it become something that divides us. So behind kindness for me, and then it's obviously the friendship that comes out of that kindness, because you cannot help but make friends with one another when you start sharing experiences and stories, and behind that is also approaching everything from a loving point of view, and as we said before about seeing the best in one another. A lot of the challenges on our doorstep, as Peter has said, is because of the unfortunate circumstances that people have grown up in. We now have that compounded by the fact that people are feeling isolated and lonely and are unable to see, get support, see GPs, see the people that they would normally have gone to with their problems. So one of the other things that we've done at the monastery recently is we've converted all of our basement areas and what used to be the refectory and the friar's pantry, we've converted all that into now a sanctuary for peace and healing, and we are offering a free listening service, and people can come through our doors and find out more about this, and they can book themselves a session with a listener. And quite often it is just that. It's getting things off your chest and letting people hear what you're going through, and then we can signpost them to get involved with all the other amazing activities that are available for a lot of people on the doorstep but don't realise they exist. So we're hoping we can start to change things, and hope people will start to come back and be kind to one another and listen to one another. It makes a huge, huge difference.
I started meditating with the Brahma Kumaris in Sheffield many, many years ago. I used to nurse, and I found that when I took up this practice, life became a lot easier. I became a lot calmer, a lot easier. It taught me how to create a better atmosphere for myself, for the people I interacted with, for the family. One of the most important things I've ever done for myself, really. Initially, when I took this up, it was just for me. Something to enable me to relax a little bit more, let go of some of the tension. Little did I know that this practice would influence the whole of my life and change the life of the people that I interacted with in a good way. It enabled me to use those nice qualities that we all have of peace and happiness and love, etc. I know that when I first took this up, my children thought I was on drugs, because I went from somebody that would go rah, rah, rah about everything to somebody that went, okay dear, we'll have a look at it. And I heard them whispering to each other saying, I am sure my mother's on drugs. But I didn't, I wasn't. But it showed me how we could go from one extreme to another. Recommended to take up the practice and to enjoy the changes that we can make for ourselves and for others.
I'd like to congratulate the Brahma Kumaris on their success in the UK. It's 50 years since Daddy Janki first arrived in London with her message of inner peace and personal power. I first came across the Brahma Kumaris in the early 2000s. I was looking for a meditation retreat, and I ended up at the Global Retreat Centre, which was absolutely fantastic. I learned so much, an amazing program, fantastic resource. And that's where I found out there were centres all over the UK. And being based in Yorkshire, I was thrilled that I was able to go to the centre in Leeds. Over the years, I've been to many programs there, made many friends, and I particularly enjoy the end of year program. On New Year's Eve, instead of going to a party, I go to their light and love-filled room and spend time in a beautiful evening of self-reflection. It's one of my favourite nights of the year. I've had so much benefit from the BKs, everything I've learned, all the teachings, the books, the talks and sessions and workshops that I've been to. They are a phenomenal resource. I'm so grateful, and I send my good wishes for the next 50 years.
I think some people might see kindness as being almost the soft option, the easy way out. But I think it is about the way you do things. As a police officer, absolutely, you have to do very difficult things. You have to arrest people. You take action which might, for instance, end up meaning that they're going to be in prison for a long while. But it's about the way you do that. It's about the way that you respect them still as a human being, the way that you follow the rules, the way that even within that interaction you can still show some kindness in the way that you deal with them. And fundamentally that's how I found most police officers act. It is about that act of compassion. But I think it's also fundamentally as well about what kindness brings to us as a society and what individuals get from acts of kindness. Again, I heard an interview recently from a woman whose daughter suffers or lives with Down syndrome, and she said that the head teacher at her daughter's school said that the class that your daughter is in is the kindest class in the school, and that was because the children in that school had that opportunity to care for the fellow pupil who had Down syndrome, and again see the richness in that girl and her individuality. And I thought that was a great example about how the very act of kindness, the very act of care, the ability to be able to care for another human being is very nourishing for us as human beings. It's fundamental to our humanity, it's fundamental to our psychology. So this isn't something which is wishy-washy or a soft option. It's absolutely fundamental to how our society exists, how people get on. It's fundamental to feelings of safety, but it's also fundamental to feelings of psychology and how human beings can act a more, happier and a more fulfilling life.
I think one of the best ways to make kindness a habit in society is to practice it more and more. I actually think it's one of the biggest strengths that we have as human beings, and it's something that actually, can make such a huge difference. We all know from the stories that we've shared today what a difference it makes to a community if you have people who are practicing acts of kindness all of the time. Those are the people that are making the difference. And then it rubs off on everybody else. And suddenly you have strong, kind communities that care for one another. You have very kind, strong families within that community. And then you have organisations that also practice that as just almost part of their DNA. And we mustn't lose sight of the fact that that's happening day in, day out with so many incredible organisations that we all know. And I completely think that it is a strength that we need to recognise and practice more and more.
I'm not sure that you can actually teach kindness, but you can give people opportunities to show kindness. You can celebrate kindness. But I think it's also about that human interaction. Most kindness, acts of kindness, are local. They are about that fundamental human interaction. Yes, it's wonderful to be able to write a cheque and give money to a homelessness charity, But it's also wonderful if you pass somebody in the street who's obviously in a bad way, to stop and actually ask them and introduce yourself and just have that human interaction. So, I think again it's about your own personal effort, it's about being proactive, but it's also about how organisations can create more opportunities for local activity, for people to get involved with things locally, to work with their neighbours, and for that really to be where the powerhouse of doing good, comes from, and fundamentally that opportunity for people to be able to care. And there's a danger with lots of charities that absolutely do wonderful work, but almost we privatise care and say that we can just show care by giving a donation, when fundamentally it's got to be a human interaction between two human beings, which absolutely, as we've discussed, benefits both the giver and the receiver.
Hi, my name's Chris Simpson, and I feel very privileged to be part of this 50-year celebration of Brahma Kumaris in the UK. I started my BK journey in 2013 when I simply came along with some friends to learn how to meditate. I did the foundation course, I then completed the advanced course, and then I was invited by the BK Centre here in Leeds to attend the morning courses, which I did Monday to Friday for an entire year, and I think I maybe only missed a few days. So I committed myself to that, and it's become the foundation of a very, very good meditation practice, which is now a daily practice for me and serves me very well. So I came along to Brahma Kumaris to learn to meditate. It's been a whole different experience as well on top of that. I discovered something that I wasn't expecting to find. It was a magic moment when I realised I'd found my spiritual home. Now, this took me a little bit by surprise, but was as simple as the people, the men and women of Brahma Kumaris, in my experience, across the UK that I've met to date, but particularly the people I know well in Leeds, are the real deal. They are the most authentic spiritual people I've come across in my spiritual journey, across many years, across the world. And it's a very compelling thing when you meet people who really live what they believe. So it's with great pleasure that I now recommend Brahma Kumaris to anybody who comes to me with an interest in meditation, or I have a sense that meditation would serve them well in their life. And the icing on the cake is always as simple as, it's free. Try it, it works for me. If you don't find it works for you, please come back and tell me, but nobody ever does. So I celebrate with Brahma Kumaris 50 years of the work in the UK, and I wish everybody all the best. Thank you.
My name is Sarah, and I live in Newcastle in the northeast of England. Newcastle is a really vibrant city. It's full of life and newness, and it's surrounded by these huge sandy beaches, mostly deserted, and vast areas of green moorland and rolling hills and castles and remote villages. It has a sense of timelessness, of ancient past. And for me as a meditator, it really mirrors my own reflective practice of living life fully with everyone around me, and then moving to a quiet space inside of me. And one of the many things I've loved about meditating, and in particular Raj Yoga meditation, has been about developing this clear understanding of myself and how I fit into the world around me. And that comes through connecting with this ancient, timeless part of me, the soul or consciousness, whatever you want to call it. I think we miss that part of us. We maybe can't put our finger on exactly what it is. Something, another layer to ourselves. It's a bit like being in a 2D world. Something's not quite fully there. And Raj Yoga teaches me to explore that other layer on a day-to-day and minute-to-minute basis, to respond well to what's going on around me in any given moment. And what I mean by that is to be able to give thoughts of kindness to someone when it would be so easy just to keep blaming, or to stay calm when it would just seem easier to give in to the chaos, to keep clarity and perspective when it would be so tempting not to take responsibility for myself. So, finding this timeless, peaceful part of myself, and to sit in that inner space, just to develop that practice and to really understand myself and my relationship with the world around me. I think that's really important.
I think in the events that I've attended, Brahma Kumaris and the speakers that I've heard have all emphasised that acts of kindness, flow from that inner peace and in turn feed that inner peace. So, but I think, for you have that opportunity to see, the human being, to see humanity, you need, in a way, really to slow down, to be able to recognise that humanity, to be not so task-driven, but also to be able to absolutely anchor what you do within that deeper spirituality, that that deeper peace. And I think it is all the pace of life. I think it is all the impact of what can seem like an angry and hostile world. It is often that which makes people feel more almost under siege, more self-contained, and more reluctant to reach out. And the wonderful work of Brahma Kumaris is absolutely to break that down and absolutely to allow people to find that inner peace, and from that inner peace plant the seeds which lead to acts of kindness, and the way that those acts of kindness then absolutely feed back into your own inner peace.
One of the most remarkable things for us to experience was the first visit of Brahma Kumaris to the monastery. And it was as though, there was just this amazing group of people who were radiating peace and tranquility and joy. And it was sort of something that everybody wanted to be part of. And as a result of that visit, we became, obviously we became closer, and we've had groups of people coming to close our meditations on our health and well-being and spiritual Sundays. So Brahma Kumaris have ended up sort of overlaying some of the work that we've been doing at the monastery on those special Sundays, and people get an awful lot from that because it gives them that time to go within and find out their own inner peace. And as a result of the lockdowns and closure, we decided again, opening our doors again, the most important thing that we would offer now at the monastery was an hour of silence every single day. So between 12 and 1 o'clock every single day, you can come for as little or as long as you like to enjoy that time to go within. And I have to say thank you to Brahma Kumaris for encouraging us to provide that service, because it's what they do all of the time, what you do all of the time, and it's priceless. We all need it. Thank you.
I've been practicing Raj Yoga for quite a while now, and I'm delighted with how it is changing my life all the time. What has developed for me is a new love of words, of painting and drawing, and I'd just like to share with you a few words about the north face of kindness, friendship, warmth and care. Someone once asked me, "Are you proud to be English?" I said, "I'm proud to be Yorkshire, from the north of England." With the friendliness of a northerner, I take my sparkle on my morning walk. I smile and say good morning to a stranger. They smile back. And through the eyes, the soul connection is made. A light is lit and a friendly warmth is ignited. As a northerner, I do tend to say what I think. A blunt humour, straight to the point, behind which is an honest caring, aimed to lighten the mood, a supportive, kindly help to see a positive, bright side. You may knock at my ever-open door. Come in, love. Would you like a cuppa? The reaching out to friendship is warm and caring, with heartfelt listening in troubled times. Climbing the north face of the mountain of life is not so daunting or difficult if I have my supreme best friend by my side, to encourage my courage, to jump over life's obstacles, or to give inspirations to go around them. So, in your imagination, right now, let us walk through the breathtaking peace of the Yorkshire Dales, by rivers and hills and cottages and churches, together, up and down the dales, up and down the dales of life, with the constant company of the Supreme Soul. We can help to reduce spiritual ignorance and increase beautiful spiritual awareness. Like spiritual roses of Yorkshire and Lancashire, we can continue to spread the fragrance of kindness, of friendship, and warmth and care. Beautiful Yorkshire, God's own county, it is said. Favoured by God, it is written. Finally, when we reach the top of the north face of the mountain of life, we can look back and say, all is well and as it should be.
So we've now come to the conclusion of our programme, and we do hope you've enjoyed it. We would like to thank everyone who's been kind enough to give us their time, and we'd finally like to invite you to join us in a short meditation on kindness.
There is a story about a mythical swan, and this swan's magic power is that it's able to select the pearls on the shore instead of the stones. In the same way, the practice of kindness requires that I select and only pick up in my mind the pure positive qualities of the people around me. And just like that mythical swan, I may see the defects, the negative qualities sitting along the shore of their life. But I can choose not to focus on those. There's a wisdom to kindness that knows if I see negative qualities in others, two things will happen. My heart will harden, but I also run the risk of catching that quality, that defect. So the practice of kindness means that I focus on other people's pure qualities, knowing that that keeps the heart soft and the soul safe. In my mind right now, I emerge one person who I may have conflict with, who I may have trouble seeing the goodness in. And I bring them in front of me in my mind. And like that swan that picks up the pearls, I choose to focus right now on one beautiful quality in that person. Let me see that quality emanating from them in my mind. And let me have appreciation for that quality. And as I look at them, I see them as more than just a body, more than the role they play, but I see them as a soul, emanating that pure quality, that pearl of virtue that they have within them. And I notice how my heart softens, how it expands, how I return to a deeper sense of peace and ease in my own being. I notice how kindness brings more light into my own mind. And I decide that the next time I see this person, the next time I have a conversation with this person, I will be like that mythical swan, and I will keep my focus on their good qualities, on their light, on that pure quality within their soul. The practice of kindness softens the heart, brings ease to the mind, but there's also the other magical effect of kindness. And just like if I focus on a defect, I will catch it, in the same way, when I focus on people's pure qualities, when I pick up the pearls instead of the stones within them, I too will begin to radiate those pure qualities. I will begin to feel a sense of belonging, connectedness, and love for the world around me. So today, I will let go of being so harsh with the people around me. And I will be like that mythical swan that sees the stones along the shore, but chooses instead to focus and hold in my mind the vision of the pure qualities of each person I come in contact with. This vision is a huge act of kindness towards others. It meets their deepest need to be seen for who they truly are.